Europe, we got a problem. Are you still scouting for talent? Oh yeah, big time. Everybody's scouting for talent. Well, if we look at the reality, most everything that we use nowadays is produced somewhere in Asia. Many services that we use in our companies and for our clients can be provided cheaper in India or anywhere else. So in terms of creating value, Europe and the US have a problem. And the problem is growing bigger. Baby boomers are retiring in masses. So soon it will not be anymore about scouting for talent, but it will be scouting for anybody with a brain who is willing to be remotely engaged. So are we having a problem? I think we're having a big problem. And actually, if we as a society, with our Western standards, with our Western values, with our culture, want to really survive, I think we have to create a paradigm shift. We have to really move over to getting rid of the money notion. Money can only buy presents. But what we need to survive is creativity, innovation, flexibility, engagement of people. People who want to work in our companies with passion and power. So, actually, I have a little quote here from a dear friend of mine, Roxanne Emmerich, and in her book, Thank God It's Monday, she quoted it so aptly. She said, you can buy a man's time, you can buy his physical presence at a given place, you can even buy a measured number of his skilled muscular motions per hour. But you cannot buy enthusiasm, you cannot buy loyalty, you cannot buy the devotion of hearts, minds, or souls. You must earn these. And I think this is the very challenge that our society, that your clients, the companies you work for, the companies that you lead, are really facing in the next 5 to 10 years. And there are companies out there that are already taking this very serious. But the majority isn't. And we just got the latest Gallup Engagement Index studies, and for our dear American friends, you'll be in for a surprise. In 2001, this is the numbers for Germany. It's not much different for Austria, and I think in the rest of Europe it will look rather similar. We have 15% of actively de-engaged people. People who have no engagement whatsoever, who actually let anybody know who wants to know that this company, that this place is crap to work at. 69% is there, on duty, more or less. And 16% in 2001 were highly engaged. Well, for 2008, the lower numbers is not that important. 16 went to 13. And in 2010, we have 21% actively disengaged and 13 highly engaged. So actually, not much changed in the last 10 years. And the interesting thing here, and that's the warning call for Europe, much more than the US, this is the numbers from 2008. Germany, we had 13% actively engaged, high engagement. The US, 29% engagement. And India, 44% of engaged employees. And ladies and gentlemen, this means India has more engaged people in their workforce than we have people in Europe. So is that serious? I think it is serious. And given the demographic development of the next few years, we'll have to deal with those 20% disengaged. We have to deal with the 67% on-duty people if we want to get anywhere. And there will be reasons why people will want to work at your place and why not. Actually, the implications on the cost level are tremendous. If we have highly engaged people, sick leaves are reduced drastically by around 40 to 50%. Imagine just what that alone costs companies per year. Fluctuation drastically goes down when people are highly engaged. Mistakes, just not thinking, just not being present with the tasks they're doing, will go drastically down. And creativity, innovation, and engagement will go up. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we create an environment? And I mean, really, it's 13%. Let's think about this. When does this happen? Have you ever had anybody start working at a new workplace and they come in day one, well, from today I'm going to be disengaged. Right? People start work, they want to move something, they want to contribute, they want to do something. And what's happening? It's the leadership that fails. The immediate leadership. It's, as Gallup has so shown aptly in their studies, the immediate leader is the key component. A good leader moves over to another department, engagement goes up, and then the other department goes down. So the amazing thing is 13% create the bottom line. And for the US, it's 30%. The interesting thing is, in the last years, with the crisis, with the recession, engagement in the US has gone up, actually. It was 26 in 2007, now it's 33. This is amazing. In Germany, nothing has changed. Well, you could say we are economy resistant. Doesn't matter what happens. Nothing changes in Germany, right? Well, the conclusion from this, however, is if 13% of people create our actually bottom line, we don't have actually to change everybody who is on duty into highly engaged. But just take the implication of raising it to 20%. Oh, sorry. Raising it to 20%. That's 50% higher revenue. Well, I know, give and take. But the implication of raising the level of highly engaged people in our organizations, this is tremendous. There's so much potential there. And especially if it will become harder and harder to really scout for talent, to bring people in who are talented, we have to work with the people at our staff that are already in our organizations to empower them to really become leaders on their own accord. And that's where our program, Moving Mountains Together, comes in. Actually, a few years ago, I've spoken at an association meeting for the textile industry, and I opened the day with this talk, and right next after me was a guy from a company who had won the Great Place to Work in Germany for 5 times in a row. And it really humbled me that he said, well, we didn't have Mr. Laschkolnig to tell us what to do. We had to come up with our own solutions. But that's exactly what they had done. So that's pretty impressive. And you know, actually, this program, Moving Mountains Together, comes from school. I'm the Austrian representative of the International Council for Self-Esteem. And the principles that the council found, what makes a great place at school in an educational system, what gives students the empowerment to become people that live a life of their own accord, of their own values, with self-determination. These principles apply to the workplace similarly and equally as well. Actually, there's a pretty interesting study done by an American business consultant company. 10 ways to really motivate an employee, and they gave 10 criterions for people to choose from. And this is the ranking that the supervisors made. This is the ranking the employees made. It's not so important what it actually is, but look at exactly that. I think this should ring some warning bells. Appreciation, employees want that, rank that as number 1, and it ranks only number 8 from supervisors. Here, we have promotion opportunities. It's not so important in the employee side. Why? Well, because if I'm working in the stock department or I'm working in accounting, I probably don't have the aspiration to become the CEO of that company one day. I know that my place where I am is not equipping me to really be going up there and presenting the company at a very large level. But what I want for me is to have a place where I like going on Monday, to have a place where I have friends, where I enjoy myself, where I say, okay, I can go there and do something meaningful. And there are criterions to that, and I think this is the probably best takeaway for you today to get that succession. These 5 steps are very important to be held in that order. And step number 1 is security. Number 2 is identity. Who am I? 3 is the belonging. 4 is vision and purpose. And 5 is making the vision and purpose happen with your competence. And that's why so many vision statements, mission statements are dusting in a corner of the corporate building. Because if we don't take care of levels 1 to 3, people will not buy into vision and mission. An interesting thing, there was a study done that actually street gangs fulfill all those 5 steps. They give you security, they give you an identity, they give you a belonging, a community. Mission and purpose are maybe a bit doubtful, right? It's maybe not the long-term goal that you actually want to pursue. And they give you the competence to beat up the other gangs better than in order to survive, right? So how do we use this in a corporate environment? And I'm just having 50 minutes here, and I'll briefly give you an overview how you can actually implement this in your companies or with your clients so that the purpose of your mission, the purpose of your company can be fulfilled at its best. There's always a component for the individual and for the team. You cannot give anybody high self-esteem. There's no way that I say to Susan, oh Susan, here, you got a bunch of confidence, or you got self-esteem. It's impossible. We cannot do that. But what we can do for our teams is to create an environment where it actually becomes possible for Susan or for Janelle or for Phil to step up and create it for themselves. And we really have to pay attention to this. This is important. As a leader in an organization, I have to first create this for myself. Because how can I accept individuality? How can I accept new and fresh thinking if that's a threat to my view of the world? I have to first get to a place where I feel confident myself, that I can see, oh wow, this is enriching my views because it's different from who I am actually. So let's have a look at security. And that's the very basis. If I don't feel secure, I won't buy into any of the other 4 steps. Would you like to work there? Well, modern work security standards prevent us from doing that. But the thing is, this is the state of the emotional security many employees face in our society. Burnout rates are peaking at a high that we have never seen before. We're constantly inventing new diseases, ADD, HDSD. We didn't even know that they existed 30 years ago. And now people have them. Interesting. So all these emotional or feeling related or like the emotional basis for who we are as people, this is the core that we are developing into. I don't know, just as a side note, Anybody knows a guy called Kondratiev? Yeah. He was a Russian economist in the 1930s who developed some strategies and some views on how markets work, which in Stalinist Russia wasn't maybe the best idea. And unfortunately, we have to say the guy was a genius, but he was executed in 1938 for the ideas that he developed. But if you want to know what's going on and where actually how our societies are developing, I think this is a very, very valuable viewpoint to take in. A guy is called Kondratiev. If you look it up on Google, you'll find a lot of stuff about him. He actually describes cycles of development. And he says always when economy gets to or the economies get to a bottleneck, then we are having a recession, then we are having a problem. Like they invented the steam machine, and the recession came when transportation wasn't sufficient enough, until the railways were developed and developed enough to really catch up with that again. And so it went on, and now we are entering into the sixth cycle, which is people. People are the bottleneck of the future, of the very future. Right now we were in the computerization age, and that's pretty well done now. Everything is computerized. I see the people in the audience sitting with their iPads, Twittering, being in contact with people all around the world constantly. So we have that solved. The problem that we are facing now is how do we get the people involved again, seeing that engagement rates are that low. So for my personal life, how do I get the sense of security? This is a choice that I have to make for myself. And just one aspect, and we really don't have the time to go into great detail. If you're interested in having more details, please leave me your business cards afterwards. I'll send you a report detailing the steps much more in detail. Take full responsibility for your own happiness. That's the factor number one if you want to feel secure. As long as you're still blaming others, as long as still the economy, it's the government, it's my boss, it's my spouse. As long as you do that, as long as you have a mindset that holds that as valid, so long you give your power away. You hand your power over to the government, to your spouse, because she did or he did, and I'm so poor. Well, take responsibility back. It's you. So take responsibility for your own happiness. And actually, from my dear friend and mentor, Jack Canfield, I learned one formula. And I think we heard in the talk before Einstein's genius formula, E equals mc squared. I think this is almost equally as genius and much more applicable to our daily life. E plus R equals O. And that means event plus response is the outcome. Oh, that's totally new, you'll say now. Well, but take in the implications of this. Most people are living here. They're living in the E. The events happen, I have no choice. But for the outcomes that we create in our lives, it's always the combination of the two. It's always the combination of event and response. And what do I have control of? Of my response to events. So, actually a brief little story about this. Jack had a friend who was a Lexus dealer, and like the first Gulf War, 1991, I still remember, I read it on the teleprompter and on my TV, and I thought, are they crazy? What's going on? Is the Third World War coming? Or I was really like terrified for a few days until it was clear that actually, okay, they're going to stay there, right? But insecurity was widespread as well as in the US. People had the money to buy stuff, but they didn't spend the money. Very, very similarly to the economy crisis right now, but that it affected the US much more than Europe actually. But a lot of it was psychological as well. So that Lexus dealer had the chance to go out of business, or maybe not go out of business, but have their business decrease dramatically. And I said, okay, we have to come up with other stuff. And they tried different ideas, and one idea that they had was, okay, why not take cars to the places where the people are with the money, like the marinas and the golf clubs and all that, and let them try the cars. So if somebody came out and they looked like a good suspect, it's like, hey, would you like, we're having here the show of new Lexi models, would you like to drive one? Well, I don't know about you, but if somebody offers to me a free ride or a free drive in a brand new luxury car, well, I wouldn't object. So when people came back after half an hour, said, how do you like it? Oh yeah, pretty nice. You know what? I have a suggestion. You can have that car for a full 3 days. You just pay the fuel. We cover everything else. You tell me where to come on Wednesday, and we'll change your cars back. Oh, cool. I'd do that. That would be nice. And who of you has bought a new car in his life once? Or twice, or more often, right? We all have done that. And you go to test drive to the car dealer. And you go for your ride, and then you come back to your car. And suddenly it's 10 years older. Isn't it? It's like, it was totally okay on the way to the dealer. But now, I don't know what happened. So obviously the same thing happened there. And what the outcome was, due to the response they created, that 64% of the people who took this offer of driving the car for 3 days, they bought a new Lexus. It was the best year in the existence of that company. In a time where it was total recession, where people were totally insecure and one thought the economy was going down. So our responses can make a huge amount of difference. And if that's the only thing that we can bring into a corporate culture, that we create a culture of taking care and taking responsibility of the responses to events that we are creating, there will be a massive change and a drastic improvement. So what does it mean for teams? Well, I think many companies have process manuals. And these are the clear rules that are actually needed. Nothing is more detrimental to a person's well-being and a feeling of at-homeness at his workplace when the rule changed constantly. We have seen from studies with pupils that actually there where security was really low was in those households where there was a substance abuse problem of any kind, be it drugs, be it medication, be it alcohol, whatever. This resulted in that there were no clear rules. If you ever had a boss that changed the rules every day, yeah, then you know what I mean. When they say, do exactly as I tell you, and the next day you do that, and they say, well, you could have thought by yourself that this wouldn't work out and take necessary precautions. Well, okay, yesterday you told me to do what you say, and now today I didn't do what you said, and now you're mad at me? Come on. So, in your companies, in your organizations, for your clients, help them create an alignment between the process manual and actually the water cooler talk. Are the real rules of your organization established in the cafeteria or at the water cooler when the senior employees take the young apprentices and say, come on, listen, now I'll explain you how this works. There is this special client of the boss, and if we piss them off, then we're all in deep shit. And you better don't do that. It's all not written in the process manual, right? So get those two in alignment. Get to the values and the rules that you establish, make them a living creature. Make them alive in the company, in the organization. So identity. Step number 2. Only when I know that I'm okay, that I'm safe with how I am and where I am, then I can actually allow myself to look at myself, to look at my identity of who I am. And usually we have actually not the cat looking at the lion, but the lion looking at the cat. In our organizations, we have the lions sitting around perceiving themselves as tiny cats that have no ability, that have no focus, that have no power. And this is so untrue. We were conditioned in years of education to believe that we actually have no potential. And helping people realize they have potential and they can do something, they can accept and use their own strengths and manage their own weaknesses, this is, I think, the greatest gift that you can give a person. And the bottom line for your workplace, for your company, oh, excellent. It will dramatically change the way you do business. Because people are not buying from businesses. People are buying from people. So if you want to portray excellent customer service, well, guess who they're interacting with? People. Your people. And if your people are just pissed at the new regulation that came out, that another takes another piece of freedom away from them, that puts another restriction on them, well, they are not most likely to be totally engaged in the conversation with your client, right? So, do you have an environment of trust? Or do you have what I call cubicle war? Like, not street fights, like in the Second World War, but like cubicle fights, so who gets promoted earlier, and that's a problem. I'm just doing recently now a project with a big client of mine, and one of the questions we asked in the survey before we start the program was, do I actually have the feeling that I can live my strength and live my weaknesses and be accepted for that? And we are all only humans. We have strength, we have weaknesses, we are all good in one thing and not so good in others. But let's put that together and create an environment where we say, okay, we support each other with our strength and help each other cope with our limitations. Well, easier said than done, as it is, as we all know. So, what you can do to strengthen the identity in a team is support people around you in finding strengths and weaknesses. Have some programs that lead people towards finding out, realizing for themselves, what are they actually good at. I had a very interesting meeting, or I met a person at a conference, and he was the CEO of a company that produced listening devices. And what they tried in their engagement process, when they hired people, they always looked for the talents of the people. They always looked for the passions of the people and tried to put them in departments. So say they're hiring an accountant, and that accountant had a fable for photography or creativity. So they tried to let that person work in accounting, but in relation to projects that were about their advertising materials, where he could be part of that process that made him passionate. And the interesting thing was they have an exceptional high engagement in their company, and they have what they call their spirit. People in the company refer to this as the spirit of the company. And I think this is exactly the way we have to go if we want to retain our employees. Because in less than 3 to 5 years, we'll be fighting for employees. Not for talents, for employees. Just to get anybody to do the job. And money is not the factor. You can only pay certain amounts of money. I call it, what's the poaching threshold? That your competition comes in and says, come on, work for us, we'll pay you $10,000 more a year. Well, let me think about this. Okay, well actually it can't get much worse than here, then why not try it? Or will they say, hey, come on, what I have here I'm living part of my life's passion. Here I'm making a difference. Here the people I'm working with here are just great. You have to pay me much more than that to make me move. There is a price for everyone. Let's not be mistaken about it. And in upper management or higher management, the price is purpose and the mission that they are on. The money is not anymore that important. But especially in the lower paying areas, the salary that you're getting is an important factor. Let's face it. But it's not the most important factor. I talked to a HR person, or actually a union person in a bank recently, and he said, well, if I can get my people 500,000 euros more money over the year, that's not really making a difference. They have the salaries that they can live on. But if I can create for them an environment that really makes them want to go there Monday morning and enjoy what they're doing and having the feeling of accomplishment and purpose and of contribution, then that's really worth something. And I think in the future, if you want to retain your employees in your company, that will be the key factor that you have to pay attention to. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So put them in an area where they can live their strength and avoid their weaknesses. And last point here is create an environment of acceptance and tolerance. I think this is the most important thing. People want appreciation. People want to be recognized, and people want to have the feeling that they are making a difference. And once a year, when you do your employee talk, that's not enough. That's far not enough. People want to be recognized for what they do good when they do it. And in Germany or in Austria, we have a saying that not criticized is praise enough. And that is what a large amount of companies and people still operate on. I don't know whether there's a similar thing in the US, but we have that very strongly. So praise, what for? He just did his job, right? But that doesn't take into account how we are as people. We want to be recognized. We want to be seen as somebody who can contribute value. All right. Belonging. Only if I have security in place and I have my identity in place, only that I know that I'm safe and it's okay to be there, I can establish who I am and what I want to do. And only then I can actually, out of my free will, decide who I want to belong to. As long as I haven't realized my potential, as long as I haven't realized what my passions are, what my really talents are, then I might associate with people that because society says we have to. It's because a good citizen does. It's because a good employee does. But that's not you. That's not going into the space of your heart to say, okay, what is your heart really singing for? And only if we know that, then we actually can say, who do we want to belong to? And we as humans, we are social people. We are a social being. We need the group. That's why one of the strongest punishments that our jurisdictional system knows is put people in solitude. To put them, lock them away in a cell where they can't get out and they have no references or no reference points in terms of other people and so on. So we need that. And why do people engage in all sort of charities, in all sort of like voluntary associations, and we are not using that in our workforce, in our companies? People are waiting 5 days a week to get 2 days off to do what they really love to do. And friends, this will not hold any longer. Because with the shortage of people that we have, people will really have the possibility to choose where they want to work. And they will choose where they want to work, where they will live the passion. They have to provide for their families, obviously, of course. But with the plentiful abundance of possibilities, they will choose to earn the money they need in a way that they are more pleased with. So where do I want to belong? For me personally, for my belonging. Do we reflect on that constantly? Or at least regularly? Who do I really want to associate with? Who I want to be in my peers? Are they really living or fulfilling my values? helping employees to get clear about that. And I always say, well, it might be that if we work with your employees, a few of them might find out they prefer breeding fish. So they will go off breed fish. That's fine. But when we get clear that this is an environment where people really can live their passions, then we can find the people who want to live their passions in the context of what we do. Because we provide an environment where they actually get enabled to do so. So who lives my values? And what can I be proud of? As a social being, we know innately, whether we are spiritual or religious or not, but we know innately that there is more to ourselves than just our limited egos. There's more to our being, and if only that being is in connection with other human beings, then that is really something that will make a difference for people. And I had to bring this, I know we're having this talk today in English, and it's in German here. This is what my secretary wrote on her calendar after 3 weeks of company holidays in summer. And it reads, "Back again, hooray." So I thought, okay. And she didn't do that because I told her so. But one morning, when we changed the calendars at the end of the year, I came into the office and I saw that and I thought, oh, that's really cool. But be aware, this is only a one-moment statement. You have to work to actually make this last a whole year. You have to always be on your guard to really be with your people and treat them right for them to maintain engagement levels like that. So, the question that we have to ask ourselves, what are the values of our company and how do they align with our employees? Are they in alignment or are they apart? And are the employees proud to work for you for whatever reason? You might be producing a totally boring additional tool or substance that is needed in the car industry or whatever. So, like you make the pumps for drilling water or something highly exciting. Well, create some other areas where they can be proud of. Create some other things. So you might, for example, want to sponsor a school in Bangladesh, and people know that part of what they make in revenues for the company will help support programs like that. Or companies provide 1 day, half a year, paid leave for the employees so that they can work for a charity of their own choice. As a way of the company saying, thanks for being with us, we want to give back to society. So there are many different ways that we can do, and you obviously would do it differently in different industries. If you're dealing with mechanics in a car repair shop, you would be doing it differently than if you're in a chain of hairdressers. It's different mentalities, different ways of doing this. This has to be implemented individually, obviously. We are all different. But we're all the same in the sense that we need those basic things underlying in order to feel well and to feel good at our workplace. And if there's an announcement, there is a job offer at your company, do people line up like that? Well, no. To be honest, that's from a rock concert. But the question is, why is that so funny? If you are an exceptional workplace, if you can help your clients to be exceptional workplaces, then people would line up like that. Like I heard that, what was it, Google receives every 25 seconds an email from somebody saying, I want to work for you. That's what I call this mentality. People see, oh, wow, this is really cool. And obviously, yes, I know we all don't have the resources of Google and can put out the free lunches and all that, but that's not the important thing. That contributes, that shows that I value my employees, but we can also do it in different ways. We can take people serious. I have a friend of mine actually in Canada, in British Columbia. She runs 3 stores of a franchise system, and she's talking to her employees constantly. She talks with them, but not about their work performance as you didn't do that and you didn't do that. But she talks to them about their dreams and aspirations. She talks to them about the potential that is within them and how they can actually bring it into the workplace. And she has one of the most loyal workforces that I've ever seen. Amazing. So also, if you're a small company, you can do that. We can all create environments that make really people want to work for us. All right. To finish it off, quickly, vision and purpose. And of course, that's not to be taken lightly, but I mean, a lot has been said about vision and purpose and competence. How do we make things happen, actually? So the question is, what is driving your employees? And what is driving you? And even though we all want to have the holiday at the beach, and we want to have the quality time with our families, we want to live our hobbies, what counts most, because you're going to have that every day on a regular basis, is that you have a work environment that is fun, that is challenging to a degree. There always has to be the balance of fun and challenge. So what Csikszentmihalyi calls it the flow, that from demand and from ability, you're really in between the two. Create a vision, create goals. And now, you maybe understand, only if we have set the security, the identity, the belonging, now vision and purpose makes sense. Now setting a vision, now having goals for the company and for your employees makes sense. Because now they are in the place, actually, that they can buy into this. That they can open their hearts and say, yes, I want to adopt that for myself. I want to be part of this, and I want to make something happen. And everybody on this planet, I think, wants to make something happen for people to make this place, this world, a better place. I like the statement from Michael Gerber, work on your company, not in your company. We all, way too often, don't do that. We all are bogged down in the everyday activities and the rat race that we are constantly in. Actually, it helps sometimes to take some time, take off, look at the processes, look at the structure, look at where we are going. What is the strategic meaning of what I'm doing here, actually? So vision and purpose for your team could be asking to declare values. And actually, imposing values is way less powerful than coming up with values together. Because we see that if a group creates values and rules and regulations for themselves, the likeliness that it's kept is way higher than when it's actually imposed on them. Communicate values and expectations. Maybe that's an interesting twist here as well. People want to know what is wanted from them. If we've got clarity, this and that is expected from me, this and that are the rules that we play by, so-and-so way we treat each other, then they have the clarity what to do and how to do. And if they decide to step over a border, then they do it in the clear knowledge of what is actually the ground rule or what's the framework that they are moving within. Most companies actually don't have that. Don't have that clearly established. There are some rules, some procedures, there are some in some manual, and well, we're adapting it every day to what's actually happening. So clarity on who you are and what you actually want to do and how you want to treat people, what are the core values, is very important for people to actually really buy into the vision. And then it's time to make a mission statement, because now people can buy into it. And out of a mission statement, out of a vision where this company is going, what we actually want to achieve, then actually, okay, here, now we need goals. This is the place to do SMART goals, specific and measurable and so on. SMART goals for visions are crap, my opinion. You might disagree, but I think for a vision to hold, you must get rid of limitations. You must be really open and looking at, well, if we could, what would be really cool? And then define the stepping stones on the way there. So, if we have a vision and a mission and a purpose, and we are brimming of energy and we are ready to rock and roll, but we don't know how to do it, well, bummer. As we heard yesterday evening from Tim Gard. Huh? So we have to make sure that people, if they bought in on our vision and our mission, then we have to make sure that they actually have the competence to actually achieve what they're going for. And of course, this can be a lot of skills training and what negotiation skills and whatever is there. All that is necessary. But I just want to line out 2 or 3 things of general value that you might see useful. Number 1 is be committed to your own goals. And the thing is, to your goals, not to the goals of society, not to the goals of your father or mother. Because he couldn't study medicine and become a doctor. He wants you to become a doctor. No, is it your goal? Is it really my goal? Because if it's what I call should goals and not want goals, you'll most likely not achieve them. You'll set them year after year after year, and nothing will happen. Because it's actually not a heart's desire. And the second one, well, we all know that, lifelong learning, oh my. Especially in Europe, in Germany and in Austria, you know that actually students and pupils in school are at war with teachers? You know, many other nations, the surveys show there's actually a togetherness of teachers and students. And Germany and Austria, very interestingly, show a very large discrepancy in there, that actually it's we or they. And especially that's why in Austria and in Germany, lifelong learning is threatening to people. Thank God I got 13 years of school behind me and 5 years of university, and let's just start learning all over again. You must be kidding. So if we can instill in the people that we're working with, not a lifelong learning, but a lifelong curiosity to the wonders that this ever-changing world has to provide to us, that are available. If we keep the sense of curiosity between our 2 ears, then the world is full of wonders for us to come. And what we can do to help our team to do that, it doesn't mean that we do stuff for them, but we can provide them with support to weigh alternatives. And often, well, one weighs 18 kilometers, the other is 22. It might be that the 22 kilometers is actually faster and easier to go. That's for them to see, and it's our duty to support them to do that. Not to do it for them, but to support them, to find the choice that they want to actually go with. So, last point, provide feedback. People that want to know how they're doing. Speakers want to know how their talk was received. Employees want to know that what they did was satisfactory, so they can go home at the end of the day with a sense of accomplishment and pride. And that's what wants them to come back the next day and do it all over again. But one very important thing is to create this bonding among employees. You need to create a common field. And I think the best way to do that is celebrate your successes. All too often, we are, there's this what they call the cycle of completion. You get an idea, you start planning on it, you start implementing, And the last step would be actually celebrate your success, celebrate the completion of the project. And all too often we skip that step. All too often we just, off into the next project. Oh man, hang on, one moment. Take a deep breath. Cherish what you have accomplished. This is powerful. For us to get the sense of, yeah, I did something, cool stuff. And as we did that good, we can now go into the next projects and do those equally as good. So, in summary, only if we have security, only if we have identity and belonging, then we can buy into vision and purpose where we actually want to go with our lives, with our professional lives at the company, and with our companies. And then we need still the competence to actually make it happen. In this sense, if these 5 steps are implemented, you will increase the threshold to lose your employees or to retain your employees manifold, and you'll have a workforce that will have fun doing it and will have fun creating extraordinary results. Thank you very much.